So just to give everybody a little bit of background, as Jamie said, we do talent strategy and career coaching. And typically the people that we're working with are mid to senior level professionals who are looking to either make some sort of career change or level up. We also do a lot of leadership and management coaching as well. So trying to help individuals who are trying to advance and progress their careers on a variety of levels. And particularly with our job changers, but also with our professionals who are just looking to establish their footprint in the market, establish their professional brand. We do a lot of LinkedIn work, all right? And that's where a lot of this presentation today comes from. I was actually honored to be able to come and present to everybody last November, I think, and we did kind of part one of this. Part one was really about what are the sort of things we see our marketing professionals missing when they're using LinkedIn? And it was more of like a strategy related thing. Today's presentation is more about what do our marketing professionals put out there in terms of their individual profiles, and how should we be improving that? What's important? What are people really looking at? Okay, so we're really going to be focused on the nitty-gritty of the profile today, because that was the feedback from the last presentation. They wanted me to dive into all those details, so we're going to unpack all of that today. My background is in recruiting and professional development. Worked in big law in DC, recruiting people in-house, moved to an agency in London, sourced talent from around the globe into London offices for both law firms and big companies, general counsel offices, things like that. And then ended up in higher ed recruitment in a move to Houston, Texas, where not long after I ended up starting my business. So some fun facts about LinkedIn. There are over 740 million users on LinkedIn as of 2021. And that's huge. It's really the go-to social media platform for most professionals. And I can tell you that 2 professionals join LinkedIn just about every second. And the US has the highest number of LinkedIn users with over 178 million. The other stat that I love when looking at LinkedIn is that about 45% of users on LinkedIn are in upper management. And I think that's really important to understand, because that means your decision makers are on LinkedIn, or almost 50% of your decision makers are on LinkedIn. With that said, 96% of executives rate LinkedIn as their #1 source for professional content. And yes, LinkedIn has a lot of helpful information from people who put information out there. But there's also a lot of helpful information from our traditional trusted sources. So Wall Street Journal is on LinkedIn. New York Times is on LinkedIn. The Washington Post. All of these traditional news sources for businesses are now on LinkedIn. They have pages and they're publishing their stories, their articles, their content in a very timely manner on this platform, no different than they do on their websites, on their other social media. So executives can come just straight to LinkedIn and get a nice mix of both. There are over 20 million jobs listed on LinkedIn. So right now we're going through this great resignation. I don't know how much you as a marketing professional might team up with your talent acquisition teams or HR professionals within your workplace. But if your company isn't on LinkedIn, they want to get on LinkedIn. If you're not posting your open positions on LinkedIn, you can do that. You get a certain number of posts for a certain number of days free to show sort of those job descriptions to the broader market on LinkedIn, and would highly recommend that you do that. More than 95% of recruiters are on LinkedIn, and they're using it to source and vet candidates, all right? So we're going to be looking at what is your brand that you're putting out there to the rest of the market. The advantages of LinkedIn profiles, there's a variety of them, but one of the things that I love is that there are fewer content limitations than a resume or a CV. There's a two-way search process for job seekers, but also for people who are looking for news content. And then it quickly and easily takes your personal brand beyond your organic network. And that's what we really focus on with our marketing professionals. It's all about taking your brand past your company, past your industry, and getting it out there to a much broader market. And when I say your brand, what I'm talking about, or the definition that I like the most of professional brand, is it's what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? It also takes the brand of your products, your services, and the business that you work for to a much broader market than you could organically, than your company could organically. So it's great for both of those. So when somebody comes to a LinkedIn profile nowadays, there are some things that they expect to see. And when they don't see those things, they're a little bit disappointed, all right? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that as professionals within the marketing industry, we're marketing ourselves and our brand to the expectation of the market at the bare minimum, all right? So what are we going to need? All of these things on here. Your name needs to match your name across platforms. One of the things that we see with our clients, even with our marketing clients, is their email address will have one name, their LinkedIn profile will have a different name, the name on their bio on their website has a different version of their name, right? So if I put C. Holly Wilbanks on my website bio and in the signature line in my email, then I want C. Holly Wilbanks on my LinkedIn profile. I want C. Holly Wilbanks on any other marketing materials that I'm putting out there to the market. If I just have Holly Wilbanks or Holly Pattison Wilbanks or C. Holly, they're not going to be able to find me as easily. So just branding 101, that came from you all. You were the ones who created that rule, and it's a good one. You want to make sure you're using a professional photo, which we'll look at a little more closely, personalizing your URL, crafting your brand vision, which is not something that's going to be done in today's presentation, but I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. Even for our marketing professionals, branding themselves can be one of the hardest things to do, all right? Really easy to brand a product, a service, or a business, a lot harder to do it about yourself. Create a unique and engaging headline. This is where I expect to see you all shine more so than I do. Write a catchy about section potentially. Include your specific experience. Prioritize your skills and endorsements. Highlight your achievements and link to your work. We're going to spend some time on linking to your work. I will say that a lot of industries have restrictions, right? So you think of financial services, things like that. Right away, the SEC and other government bodies have restrictions on what you are and aren't allowed to put out on social media. So you want to make sure that you get together with your company's compliance group, if you have one, or any other sort of authoritative figure internally, and make sure that what you're putting out on LinkedIn aligns with your company brand. That is, if you are using your platform to promote your company, their products and services. Your profile also has to be a little careful, particularly in getting like recommendations and things like that sometimes. With that said, legally, companies cannot force you to have a LinkedIn profile one way or another. They can say, as a professional, you agreed to this social media contract, and with that contract, you agreed not to take recommendations and follow the SEC guidelines. They can say that, but they can't force you to put a company branded background photo in. They can't force you to put a company branded summary in. So just keep that in mind. Is it a best practice? It is. And in fact, an integrated marketing strategy where perhaps several people within your company or organization are leveraging LinkedIn in a synchronous way with synchronous branding, synchronous messages, that is the best practice and ideally what we want to do, but employers cannot make individuals do that. So just be aware of that. Matching your name. We talked about this a little bit. For our marketing professionals, you may have some sort of online portfolio of the work that you've done over time. You want to make sure that, again, whatever name that you're putting on that matches the branding and the name that you have on LinkedIn. So quick poll here. Using a headshot makes you how much more likely to be found on LinkedIn? 2 times, 10 times, 14 times. We have a guess for 14. 10. Guess for 10. What are our people online saying? Any guesses that you want to type into the chat? 2 times, 10 times, 14 times more likely to be found on LinkedIn just 14. Using a headshot. Maggie wants to guess 14.
I'll say 10 just to balance it out.
All right, 10 to balance it out. The answer is 14 times more likely. All right. So if you don't have a headshot in there, you want to get a headshot in there. All right. The ideal situation is to use a professional photographer for this. All right. Here in Pittsburgh, we recommend Jen Worley Photography. She's right over, what's the hotel? Omni, thank you. She's over in the Omni. She's in those business suites there. She does a phenomenal job. She's the person who did my headshot, and she did the headshot of a couple of my team members, Kristen and Mandy, who are here in the Pittsburgh area. All right. If you can't afford a professional photographer, and just to give you an idea, those photography sessions range from about $150 to maybe $300, depending on how many takes you want, how many images you want, how many outfits you want photos of, things like that. That can be a variable. But if you can't afford a professional photographer, then get a friend or a family member who photography is their passion or their hobby, and try to find some sort of background that is not distracting, if you will, and have them take your photo against that not distracting background. If they can do that photography skill where they blur out the background and you're at the forefront and you're nice and clear, that's even better. An alternative, all right? You work for a manufacturing company, all right? Have somebody take a picture of you on the plant floor or next to the manufacturing equipment, right? Like, live the brand, own that, right? A lot of times with our healthcare professionals, we'll actually have them wear their scrubs or wear their white coats for their headshot because that's their brand as a professional, right? You also don't want to use a headshot from another platform, particularly if you have what I would call an Instagram photo or something like that. Keep that on your other social media platforms. It's very fun to use it there, but you want a nice, clean, professional headshot. Profile photos examples we'll take a look at in just a second. This is my old headshot. This is the one when I first started my business, and I had that taken by a photographer in Houston who we love. And then this is a great example of Jax. You'll notice that Jax doesn't just have a really nice headshot. And again, his is that example of that blurred background. Jack ended up going into a startup. And look at Jack's background photo. You saw my background photo here. Mine is branded with my company branding. It's got pictures of me doing public speaking because that's what I do a lot. Jack here doesn't do a lot of public speaking, and he wasn't necessarily looking to be part of a company brand yet, but he wanted to highlight the skills that he had so that a startup could find him, right? So I made mine in canva.com. Jack made his, I think, in Publisher or Illustrator. But honestly, you could do something this simple potentially in Canva. You might even be able to do it in PowerPoint or some other thing where you can do Venn diagrams and things like that and just pull a bunch of icons together. All right. So this is where it gets fun or terrifying, depending on who you are. All right. We're going to look at some examples from some AMA Pittsburgh professionals. They did not know that I was doing this, and I promised to be kind. All right. So let's take a look. So Miriam here, I'm going to pull up really quickly. Let me get out of my slides, and I'm going to just pull them all up really quickly, and then we'll look at them. That's just going to be the easiest way to do it. Boop. And I know you can't see LinkedIn yet. It's okay. We're going to get there next. All right, so I'm going to get out of the slideshow for a second just to make sure that I can, there we go, see those slides. All right. So we'll start with Mackenzie here because I know Mackenzie. Mackenzie actually has helped me with my website, which needs a lot more Mackenzie. I'll leave it at that. You can see here that she has a great profile, right? She has a very professional headshot. She's got a nice banner in the background here, right? The only thing I would say is her background banner makes me think that she might be a news reporter. I know she's not a news reporter, right? So that if I had to come up with some critique, it would be I would want to see her have a background photo that's a bit more about her brand, all right? What I think she could do is she could do a split one where she has this photo and maybe something else, because I can tell she's like a guest speaker on a talk show here or something, right? Which is impressive, and you would want to highlight that. She could also take this image here and she could move it to what we call the feature section on LinkedIn. And I'll show you where featured is. See this information where she has featured stuff down here? That is an area where she could take that photo and highlight that instead potentially. She could also take that and bring it down and highlight it under whatever experience it is that she wants to associate that with. You can actually attach images with the different job positions so that you can show sort of what went with what too in a chronological order. Ashley here, who has been super helpful in helping me get this set up for today. This is a nice professional headshot. It's out in the background. Here we have this nice scenic view. This is certainly safe, but it doesn't tell me anything about her as a marketing professional. Now, if I looked at this picture with the green leaf background and this mountain, I'm going to guess that she works for the National Park Service. All right.
Did you know that she's a fan of the National Park Service?
Well, I'm getting that now. I am now getting that. But is that who she works for? Not so much, right? So what we would want to do is maybe take Ashley's passion out of this and put more of her profession into this, right? Her passions can go on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever her chosen other social media platforms are for her personal interests. We would really want to keep this more professional, all right? Now, poor Lauren here. This may be because, notice Lauren and I are not connected, right? So this could be as simple as Lauren has her settings in the back end of LinkedIn to not show the general public about her. And she may not even know that this is happening. But let me show you really quickly. I'll go to my profile and show you where to make sure that your settings are open so that everybody can see your profile. All right.
Holly, does that take you out of like the privacy mode when you do that?
I don't know the answer to that. So if you're hiding, because I don't hide myself from anyone. So you saw where I clicked over here, edit public profile and URL. That took me to this page here. And you'll notice all of these different options here, right? So you can decide what you want to show and what you don't want to show. And to answer your question, if we said only first degree connections, let's see what that turns off. You can still keep these on apparently. your network. It keeps them on to my network, right? So we could go to a different setting to alter that potentially, all right? While we're in this feature, one of the things that I also wanted to show you is how to edit your URL. So notice how my URL here does not have a lot of random characters and letters behind it. The way that you edit that is in this same section here, up here in the right-hand corner, edit your public profile or URL. Typically, LinkedIn will assign you a bunch of random characters there. You can delete that and just try leaving your name there. If your name has been taken by somebody else, no different than if somebody already picked an email address before you picked it, then if you have an advanced degree like an MBA or a JD, an MA, you may want to add that on there. An easy addition is also to just put 2021, right? Don't put your birthday, don't put your anniversary, don't put the year your child was born. Most spammers are not on LinkedIn. The spammers on LinkedIn are the marketing professionals. But well, that's another topic for another day, all right? And that's more about a service that we're not going to get into today on LinkedIn, all right? So you can save that and then just make sure if you have your LinkedIn URL somewhere else, after you've updated that, perhaps you have it in your signature line on your email address, or you have it on a resume or an online portfolio. You just want to make sure that you update that URL everywhere else too, after you've updated it on here. There's Anna or Anna, and I like hers because she has her MBA right there. If she was a job seeker, that would be really important for a recruiter to see because it tells the recruiter that she meets the minimum qualifications for a position that the recruiter's hiring for that requires an advanced degree. So if you have an advanced degree, if you have additional certifications, we recommend putting those letters up at the end of your last name in that section, all right? But I like hers because she has that really nice background photo that is clearly all about work, right? Headshot, not terrible if her company is a startup maybe. If it's not a startup, we might want to go with Jen Worley here in town and get a more professional headshot. And Miriam here, all right, who I also love. Beautiful photo, probably from a family wedding. If I was Miriam's coach, I would want to make sure that those features are turned on in the background so that I can see her background photo and anything else she would want me to see. And if she doesn't have that plugged in yet, I think by now you all can tell the difference. Whenever you go to a profile that's nice and robust, you're really fulfilled when you see that. And then when we get to profiles that aren't giving us what we need, either because the settings are turned off or because somebody hasn't necessarily plugged into the platform the way that they would want to, then we're disappointed, all right? So let's leave our network feeling really good about what we're bringing to the platform. Oh. Yes. Yes, flip-flop screens again. Here we go. There we go. All right. So personalizing your URL, we just went over. Ooh, and another one, check your business cards. If anybody is still using paper business cards, make sure if you don't have your LinkedIn on there, add that to your business cards on the next order. You could also just add a QR code. LinkedIn actually gives everybody an individual QR code that you can use. So if you haven't found that feature, make sure you look for that, and then you can put your LinkedIn QR code on there. So this is where a lot of times marketing professionals come to us for help. And it's all about what is my brand and how do I put that out there? I'm great at doing it for my business. I'm great at doing it for the products and services that we sell. I could do that all day long. But when it comes to selling myself and branding myself, I don't feel like I'm hitting the mark. All right. And it does take some time. You have to think about what are your immediate 5-year and long-term goals. And a lot of times when we work with professionals, they don't know what their long-term goals are. They're just like, I just know I need to change, right? And so then we create immediate goals to have a change, but we do that based on their 5-year goals. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, both professionally and personally? People who try to separate the professional and personal end up miserable at work or miserable at home, right? So we really try to tackle both. So what does that look like for you in 5 years? And then backtrack to what should your immediate goals be to take steps to get there in 5 years, right? And the answer isn't always changing jobs or changing employers. A lot of times that can be done within your own company. And then what is your expertise? So as marketing professionals, you're probably very familiar with unique selling points or unique selling propositions, USPs. We use the same thing with our clients when developing their brand. What makes you as an individual unique? What skills and value do you bring to any employer that would automatically be valuable? And this one is a little bit harder. We actually have an entire exercise about this that we give to clients. And then typically they come back to us and say, that was miserable. I'm pretty sure I didn't do it right. And then we help them rework it to a point where they feel like that's me, right? So I'll tell you my unique selling points to give you an example, because it's not just about my current job, right? So I have worked in-house, agency, and higher ed recruitment. I don't know anybody else who has done all three, all right? I've worked in the US and I've worked abroad, which means I've gone through the expat experience and I've come back. So no matter what employer I go to, I would be able to recruit candidates internationally very seamlessly, very authentically too. And then my final USP is that I have the ability to get people to do things that they don't want to do with a smile on their face. That's the soft skill or leadership skill known as influence or persuasion, right? So not everything is a technical skill. You'll notice I didn't say anything about writing LinkedIn profiles. I didn't say anything about giving presentations and talks. Those are certainly skills that I have and things that I can do. That's not necessarily why somebody would hire me, okay? What is your umami? What is your secret sauce that drives what it is that you do? So because I worked all three of those areas of recruitment, I can bring a really diverse perspective to a broad range of clients. Because I have worked internationally and domestically, I can work with global clientele very easily. And because I can persuade and influence people, I can not only do sales for my business or sales for another business, but I can also work with individuals to help them see from a different perspective what their value is, or why putting this on your LinkedIn profile is actually going to benefit you in the long run, even though it feels uncomfortable right now, right? So think about what your USPs are. That's going to take some time. What is your value proposition? Your business has a value proposition. You probably have a value proposition for the different services and products you represent. What is your value proposition? What value are you delivering? What are you known for? If you don't know what you're known for, ask your colleagues, ask your boss, ask previous colleagues. Think about in jobs that you've worked in the past, when you left, what gap did you leave that either they couldn't fill or was really hard for them to fill. When you start new jobs, what skills and value do you bring that automatically enhance the team positively? Right? And then what would you say is your greatest contribution? What would they say is your greatest contribution? It might be two different things. Always very interesting to ask people. All right. And we're coming up right now on the time of year where performance appraisals happen, right? Some organizations do them quarterly or monthly now. Most are still doing them on an annual or biannual basis, right? So if you have a performance evaluation coming up, this is a great time to really think about this and hone in on it. It's also a really safe time to ask your colleagues and your boss, what do they think makes you tick? What are your greatest contributions? What is the greatest value that you deliver? All right, without seeming super awkward about it. All right. From there, you want to create a unique and engaging headline. And this is kind of a two-part thing. You want the headline at the top. The headline is where most people have their job title and their company listed. That's great. But what does that say about your brand and your value? Nothing. All right. So you want to make sure that you get that out there for sure. And then you also want to make sure that if you can get some sort of like catchy line in there, that always gets people's attention. So an example would be, where is it? Is it on this one here? Yes, I just can't read it there. Nike has Just Do It. BMW has The Ultimate Driving Machine. Those are great examples. A friend of mine wrote Eliminating the Pain in Supply Chain. She's a supply chain professional, right? That's the whole point of supply chain professionals, is to make supply chain as seamless as possible, right? So I thought that was great. Couple of things to think about. You don't want to use the forward slashes on LinkedIn. The algorithm cannot read them as separate words. So we actually recommend that you use either the forward slash with a space before and after. But if you really want to look contemporary, you want to use this vertical slash with a space before and after. Otherwise, it reads these words, pressure, fixed, static, as one word. Why would that be important? Well, for two reasons. One for you, one for the business that you work for. For you, it's important because if a recruiter is searching for someone with your skill set, you're not going to hear about it if they can't find these words through their Boolean searches, right? For your business, it's important because if this happens to be something either in your headline or in your about section or in your job description that talks about the products and services about the business that you represent, potential customers, collaborators, they're not going to be able to find that. So make sure that you're not using these forward slashes or these vertical slashes without a space before and after. Yes?
Probably a stupid question, but what about commas?
Commas are fine. Comma, space, right? The way that you would normally do it. Okay? It's for some reason the forward slash, backslash, and that vertical divider, they have to have spaces before and after. Here's some more good headlines. Zika virus expert delivering innovative approaches to complex problems in internal medicine. This is a problem that we solve. We actually see a lot of marketing and development professionals putting this type of headline in place. Then there are the ones that kind of outline sort of your different expertise areas and value that you deliver, similar to the second two on this list. So let's take some examples, and I'm going to pull up Jason's because we didn't do that one before. And you're probably wondering, how did I find all of these people? Great question. I literally searched in LinkedIn, American Marketing Association, Pittsburgh chapter, their specific connection. And if somebody had that on their profile somewhere, either because they were on the board or on a committee and they had it in their experience section, or if they had it down in organizations, or they had it in volunteer work, which is where people typically put those two things. It should be in organizations, but sometimes people put it in volunteer. That's how I found all these people. All right. So
The internal guest can't see your screen.
oh dear. Okay, let's fix that. Nope, hold on. All right, perfect. So Mackenzie here, going back to her profile again, you'll notice her headline, certified digital marketer. I love that she puts that up with her name. Highly recommend that. And then as her headline, highly effective marketing executive, there she's got the certified digital marketer, SEO, SEM professional, right? Now, see how she has SEO, SEM? I still think she should put the space before and after with the vertical divider, even though a lot of recruiters or businesses will do the SEO/SEM search in particular, right? You're better off safe than sorry, right? Somebody may just want SEO. Somebody may just want SEM. Make it so that they can find you both ways. I would also say that she could go ahead and take out certified digital marketer here and put some other deliverable or value driver in there that might help the market that she's serving. Right? Jason was an MBA student I presented to at Tepper recently. He's clearly an entrepreneur. So he's an entrepreneur, an aerospace engineer and pilot pursuing an MBA to help launch the new space industry. Right? So again, telling who he is and why. What does he do? What value does he deliver? Right? And who is the other person I had here? Let's go down and look. Oh, it was Miriam. Let's go to Miriam's. Right. Miriam has what most people have, Director of Events at Carnegie Learning, right? That's her title and that's her company, right? We need to move beyond that, all right? Grab people with some messaging about you and your value, no different than you grab people in the messaging that you all put out there about your businesses.
Holly, I have a question.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on if you combine both of those? Like, so I have my title,
Yep.
you know, visit Pittsburgh marketing.
Yep.
And then I have kind of those pieces. So what's your thought?
Absolutely. So interestingly enough, you can do that. Like that would be an ideal situation. You don't necessarily need to put your employer name on there because here, let me just go back here really quickly. See how you can see Carnegie Learning over here to the right? It's redundant, right? So she could keep Director of Events up there. I think that that's great, particularly to kind of show sort of the scope of what she might have and her responsibility level. But then I would want her value drivers on there rather than just her employer name. And we'll go back here and fix this. So the buzzwords for 2021 are listed here. And in the past, it has been a lot easier to avoid the buzzwords. Interestingly enough, some of these buzzwords we can't necessarily avoid when we're putting our profiles together. For instance, Most people want you all to be strategic. They also want you to be creative. Some words that I think we can avoid here: motivated, passionate, experienced. Experience, what does that even mean? Like, did you work one day? Did you work 30 years? Like, so I even told my team recently when they were writing LinkedIn profiles and resumes, nobody's allowed to use experienced anymore, right? The English language has a variety of words that we can use to describe people and what level they're functioning at. Let's use those words, right? So when possible, stay away from the buzzwords, but as we discussed, not all of these we can stay away from right now. So you want to write a catchy about summary, and we do encourage people to write in the first person. The only time we encourage people not to write in the first person is if you work for an industry where that might freak them out. So that would be banking, legal, possibly like engineering, right? But everything else would be fair game. Now, if you're more about putting your brand out there rather than the brand of your business, then what I would say is go ahead and write in first person then, even for those industries, right? Marketing professionals, you can get away with some things that perhaps somebody who's in human resources or in the general counsel's office couldn't get away with, right? So you want to make sure you highlight your unique skills and achievements. You also want to make sure you highlight the unique skills and achievements of the business that you work for, if possible, right? Your summary is no longer shown in full, so you want to make sure that the first 2 lines, sometimes 3 lines, are the most interesting, all right? And then always have some sort of call to action at the end. You all know that, all right? Reach out to me. I'd love to connect. Contact us for more information today. Put that information there in the about section. Don't make them go up to your contacts and find out that you forgot to update it from your personal email address 8 years ago, right? So let's take a look at some of those in just a second. We'll go back to Mackenzie and Lauren. Can they see online? Jamie?
Yep.
Okay, good. Can they see this online?
Yes.
Okay, good. So for Mackenzie's, she wrote hers in the third person, which is, again, not terrible, but she totally could have written in the first person. And let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for the
When you say
people.
first person, you're saying use I.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. I have a question.
Yes, we'll talk about that in just a second. Yes,
I
Maggie.
think I read the first paragraph and I don't care if she's putting whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot of content, but guess what she specializes in? SEO and SEM. What do you need to drive SEO and SEM? Content, right? So she knows that if she wants to be found by the right people, she has content, right? And that is the exact same thing that we do with our clients. Almost every one of our clients is like, but you know, these other people in my industry with my job at different companies, they only have 1 paragraph. I'm like, they are not looking to get out of a terrible job that they hate. And therefore, they only have 1 paragraph. They also were not wise enough to hire my brilliant team to do their LinkedIn profile, which is why it will take them infinitely longer to get out of their terrible job that they hate if they ever want to, right? This is so that not only is she coming up in the searches on LinkedIn with this content, it translates to Google. It translates to the search platforms.
I have a
Yes,
question for you.
yes.
So, I mean, obviously she's writing about herself, promoting herself. Would you ever use this if, say, I'm not looking for a job.
Mhm.
I'm there because I'm in sales.
Yes.
I want to strum up business. I want new clients.
Yes,
Would I write about my company and what I can do for my
you would.
clients?
You absolutely would. And the way that I recommend that you do that, and I'll show my profile as the example of this, is you do a combination of you and your business. And the reason for that is if you're ever approached with a wonderful opportunity, you weren't looking, but it ticks every dream job box that you've ever wanted, then you're not suddenly changing all this random stuff on LinkedIn, or you suddenly decide you hate your job, right? You're not changing everything on LinkedIn, raising red flags, making people go, why is this person suddenly changing their LinkedIn profile? They just scrubbed all of the business content and it's all about them and their wonderful skills and accomplishments now, right? So in order to not raise red flags down the road, we recommend that it's a combination of personal and business value, right? So let's take a look at Lauren's really quickly and then we'll go to mine. I love Lauren's. Before we even open it even further, and for the people in the room, it's a little fuzzy, so I'm going to read it to you. I remember a former boss from an early role telling me in an annual review that you're doing great and we love the work that we do, but we notice that you talk a lot to your colleagues, not in your department. Maybe cut back on that. I remember asking, well, what role would allow me to speak and build relationships outside of my department? Alas, a future salesperson was born. Right? What a great way to engage the reader, right? And Lauren's is mostly about herself, right? So let's take a look at mine, which is a combination. Mine also starts with a personal story. And to touch on your question about should we use I, that can be a little uncomfortable. It's a little abnormal sometimes, right? Your LinkedIn profile should be about you, okay? It should be professional, but your resume or your CV is sterile enough, okay? Let LinkedIn allow people to see you as a person, not just a professional, right? Let them see that you're somebody that they would want to go to a volunteer event with through work, or go to a happy hour with after work, or celebrate, you know, whatever it was that you achieved as your goals that year with at the annual holiday party, right? Let people see that you're a human being. So mine is a sales pitch up front. Then it moves into my personal information. In the 6th grade, my mother grounded me for spending too much time on the phone listening to and coaching my friends to overcome their challenges. Fast forward to today and things aren't that much different. And then I go into the business part. As an award-winning talent pioneer, I believe that everyone has unique value, blah, blah, blah. Scroll down even further and you get outside of my experience and you get into our business. While most of our clients are mid to senior level professionals seeking an edge in today's competitive market, I work with professionals at various industries from students to executive leadership. Select services we list, again, why, SEO, content, all right? And then what we can do for people as well, all right? How am I doing on time, Jamie?
About 10 minutes.
So basically I need 5 minutes of wrap up and then leave time for Q&A.
Sounds good.
Scroll down. We're almost there. We're doing good. Let's skip this one. All this specific experience means we a lot of times see people who will only list their most current position, but they've been at that company for 15 years. We want to see the progression that you started out as an assistant and you moved to a coordinator and then you became an assistant manager and then a manager and now you're a senior manager, right? And then show me a little bit about during that progression, what were the additional responsibilities that you took on with each one of those roles? How were they different? Prioritize your skills and endorsements. I'll show you that in just a second. That's easiest to do from the platform. All right. Your endorsements, recruiters don't really care about, and other people, if they do care about it, it's because they're not really thinking about it. The endorsements piece is that the number that ranking that people say, like 10 people endorse me for LinkedIn writing, or 15 people endorse me for resume writing, or whatever, right? The endorsements aren't organic, they're not authentic. LinkedIn prompts your network for that, which is why people who actually know LinkedIn don't really care about that. What they care about are your achievements, and they care about your recommendations, which we'll take a look at, right? And then, of course, link to your work, which we'll take a look at as well. LinkedIn is digital. Use it digitally. It can almost become your professional portfolio in a lot of ways. All right. So link to photos, videos, presentations as much as you can. You can also post about them on a regular basis. Let me show you really quickly about the recommendations and the skills and endorsements. Come on, play nice. While I'm doing that, does anybody have any questions for me? Hold on. Let's try going over here and we'll go to it from here.
Yeah, for those of you online that have any questions, you can drop them into chat.
So you'll notice I just went to my profile online. Did you see what happened with my headshot?
I was
I'll
going
do
to
it
ask
again.
I was going to ask if you had done that. I noticed that's a new feature.
All right, let me refresh this and see if it'll do it again. See how it turned into a video? That's called a cover story. Right? And it's really great. Hardly anyone is using this feature. So LinkedIn recently took away the stories feature, the general stories feature. They're trying to make it better, apparently. I think they realized that they didn't have enough bandwidth for it.
No.
But this is something, the headshot turning into a video was something that I actually predicted almost 5 years ago that LinkedIn was going to do based on the popularity of video content. And sure enough, they've done it. It's a very short clip. The easiest way to do it is from your mobile device, your phone or your tablet. Get somebody to record you. That video that I just did was taken here in the ballroom at the Rivers Club, and it was taken by Jen Worley, the photographer here in Pittsburgh. All right. And we just did it on the fly really quickly. And that's what's on there. Now, interestingly enough, when you go and watch the video in your spare time again, when you pull up my profile, you'll notice that I say one thing backwards. But most people don't notice that when they first watch it. All they're doing is going, oh my gosh, this can be a video. This lady knows LinkedIn, right? So keep that in mind.
So Holly, like now it's just your picture, so how would you go back to the video?
You click on it. So from the online thing, you click on it. From the desktop version, you just refresh and then it'll pop back up again.
And I'm sorry, how do you start? Like when you go to edit?
So from your mobile device, you click on the edit feature for your headshot and it'll give you that option there.
Add cover story.
Like that. You can certainly do the selfie version. I do recommend getting somebody else to do it for you. As you can see, it's just a lot easier. You can talk freely with your hands if you're a hands talker like I am,
Right. You
right?
can use one of those pods or.
Exactly, tripod,
Tripod.
exactly. Just, I don't recommend like holding it as the selfie there. And then what am I talking about there? Well, obviously the Wilbanks Consulting Group. I am selling that in that video, all right? But for somebody like you who you may not necessarily be selling products or services, you could do that cover video about, let's say Jamie here, there's an upcoming happy hour for AMA Pittsburgh. He might be, hey everybody, For those of you who didn't know, I am the president of AMA, and our next happy hour where we're all getting together is on this date and this time. We look forward to seeing you there. Link is in my about section. Registration links in my about section, right? Something that simple. Yes.
Does that get pushed out somehow, or people are gonna see that, or do they have to know to hover over your headshot?
So they have to know, they're gonna see that, and then when they pull up your profile on your phone, like if you pull up my profile via your LinkedIn app, it'll automatically play for you.
Cool.
Right? So let me just go down here really quickly. You'll notice I have video content up here, all right? And then down here in the skills and endorsements, I want to just make sure that you all know that you can move these around. So I can unpin this and put recruiting up here instead. I can move recruiting to be the first thing that people see. I can also move these other skills around, like if I want consulting up there, maybe I'm selling consulting services right now, I'll put that higher up, right? So it just depends on what you want to highlight. Make sure that you move those around so that people are seeing first what you want them to see. And then in terms of recommendations down here, you want to make sure that you are asking your network for recommendations when you don't need them. Okay, you just finished a big campaign, you just finished a big project, you just hit a big goal. Ask the people that you worked with for recommendations for you, particularly your boss, because that's a very normal time when you would say, hey, like, I want to highlight, the work that I've done on LinkedIn. Can you give me a recommendation and talk about that? Also, specifically tell people what you want them to write about. If I asked my friend Krista, who I used to work with, to write me a recommendation and just left it up to her, she might write about how awesome I am at grant writing, but I never want to write another grant again. But if I ask her to write about the planning that we did for a conference, then that I might want to do again soon. So she could write about that, but I need to tell her that when I ask for the recommendation. And there's a place where you can do that, right? I want to leave time for questions, and we've only got a couple of minutes. Anything online, Jamie?
I don't see any questions online,
Okay,
but from the group here.
I always have my question, I'm so sorry.
yeah, go for
You
it.
said that your about content will transfer over to Google. Can you go into that a little bit more? Like, do you mean when someone goes on Google and searches for marketing manager?
So if somebody types keywords and phrases into Google, yes, and it's not going to necessarily be on the first page, but if they're going back through the pages, you will pop up, your LinkedIn will pop up.
And when you look at your analytics, it's cool because then you can see who looked at you and sometimes their title of who took a look at you.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
And then on top of that, like, you can actually see who came from the web, or at least in my version of LinkedIn. I do use LinkedIn Premium. I can see who found my profile via the web versus the LinkedIn homepage versus through a connection, right? So pay attention to that. Once you get through updating your profile, you should see more people coming to your profile from the web, from the homepage, rather than just through your connections.
And for the paid ones, I paid for one. I don't even remember. It was when I was kind of looking. I think it's the $30 one. Is there one that you recommend since you're on there so much?
So I think I use the $30 one. I think that's the premium one. It's like $30 a month or something like that. And that's the one that I recommend. When you get into Sales Navigator and stuff like that, I don't actually recommend that because a lot of the searches that you can do from the main search function in the premium version, which is cheaper, you get almost the same results.
Unless
Okay.
the company's buying it for you.
Exactly.
Navigator, it was
Yes,
cool.
yes. All right.
That's-
Oh, thank you very much, Elaine. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anyone else? Other questions? All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for having me. Definitely connect with me. And you're welcome to email me any questions after today as well.
Okay, Holly, thank you very much. I thought I was a LinkedIn expert until I heard you talk today, and I realized I got a lot to learn yet.
Okay.
So thank you very much. I just want to finish off by saying, thanks for attending from the AMA. I appreciate everyone being here. If you're interested in volunteering or joining the AMA, reach out to me. You also have RJ Thompson online, who's our going to be our president-elect. And you also have Doreen Saletti, who's our VP of Collegiate. So reach out to any one of us. It's a lot of fun, and we get to plan cool events like this. And yeah, I appreciate everyone being here. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Great job.
Bye, everyone. Bye.